What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I can't contain my excitement. I have been so excited for this video, but also a bit nervous because there's a lot to choose from with the best movies of the decade, but that's what we're talking about. So we've already talked best movies of 2019, we've done best Netflix series, best Netflix movies, and now we're doing my personal favorite films of the decade. So from 2010 to 2000 and now. Basically, a massive 10-year span, and somehow I got it down to my 30 films. Now, I'm going about this video a tad bit differently than what I normally do. So normally, I give you guys honorable mentions and I go straight into my top 10, but this time, I somehow narrowed it down to 30 movies from the decade. So what I did is I went into each year, I looked at the films that I gave the best score to, combined with how much I go back and rewatch them, basically my favorite movies from every single year, and then I had my list of 30. From there, I went in and created a top 10, but I don't just want to talk about those 10. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start in 2010, move our way to 2019. I'm going to tell you guys each and every movie that I selected, except for my top 10. My top 10 I will save until the end of the video and start at number 10, go all the way to number 1, give you guys my favorite movie of the decade. But basically, you're getting a top 30 where numbers 30 through 11 are just not in order. That way we can cover them a bit quicker and I can go through this as quickly as possible. But you guys know me, I like to talk, so prepare. I feel like I shouldn't have to do this anymore, but here we go anyway. This is all just personal opinion, man. Statistically, it is improbable, almost impossible for you to have the exact same list as I do. Talking thousands of movies, guys. 10 years worth of films. Everyone's going to have a different list, and that's what I need from you down below. What is your favorite movie of the decade so far? What's your top 10? What are your honorable mentions? All of those things. And by the way, I told you I'd be announcing the winner of my Best Movies of 2019 contest. We're going to be doing that at the end of this video, so stay tuned. And if you guys enjoy these lists, it's not the last one I'm doing. I know it seems like it is, but it's not, so smash that thumbs up button if you would like more, and maybe I'll bring my top 10 television series of 2019 later on this week. Okay, so let's travel back to the year of 2010, a year that brought us so many incredible movies, a couple that are going to be in my top 10, but the ones that did not make it, well, the one that did not make it is Toy Story 3. You could throw in a How to Train Your Dragon, a Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, many others, but Toy Story 3 really is a film that did everything that it needed to do to cap off an incredible trilogy. I love the Toy Story franchise. Number 3 is my favorite one in that franchise, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. 2011. I could have put many films on this list. I considered movies like Moneyball and Drive, 50-50, movies that I love, but I ended up putting Warrior and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Warrior delivered one of the greatest, most interesting fighting movies I have ever seen. It covered a topic that, you know, I don't know all that much about, but after watching this film and soaking in the themes and the incredible performances from Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy, man, this is easily one of my favorite movies of the decade. It is an incredible, heartfelt, action-packed story. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a film that concluded this franchise that we all pretty much know and love. It's one of my favorite Harry Potter films. I loved everything about this film. After being slightly disappointed with Part 1, I was hoping this would fulfill everything that I wanted it to. It absolutely did. I need to go back and revisit the Harry Potter movies soon. We go into the year 2012. Movies like Perks of Being a Wallflower, The Avengers, The Master, a film that I just watched for the first time in case it could have been on this list, but the movies that I am choosing, Django Unchained and Looper. I love these two films. Django being one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino films. It does everything that I wanted it to do. It was so BA. It was so stylistic. I love Jamie Foxx's performance. Christoph Waltz, I fell in love with the guy through this movie. And Looper, Rian Johnson at his most Rian Johnson, but Rian Johnson at his best. I know a lot of people give the time travel a bit of crap in this film, but I love the way that this thing was presented. Bruce Willis's performance. He tried, ladies and gentlemen. He actually tried. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Everyone in this movie is great. One of the cooler time travel movies really I've ever seen. 2013. So many great films once again. Short Term 12. Her. Lone Survivor. 3 movies that I love. But The Conjuring is a movie that I believe is one of the best horror films of the decade. Definitely more of a studio horror film as opposed to more of an artistic A24 movie, but it is a movie that I believe deserves to be talked about when we're talking horror movies that really change the game. And the other film you see on this list is Prisoners. Denis Villeneuve, one of my, if not my favorite director working right now. Everything he does, I believe, turns into gold. And it's hard not to say Prisoners is, when I try to rank Denis Villeneuve's movies, they all get jumbled in my head because I'm like, they're all really close to perfect, incredible. I love everything about them. One of Hugh Jackman's best performances ever, if not his best performance. Same with Jake Gyllenhaal, same with the entire cast. It is a tough movie to watch, but if you can stick with it, it's a film that's going to impact you. 2014 brought us movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, Nightcrawler, Interstellar, X-Men Days of Future Past, Gone Girl, but the films that I'm choosing to put on this list, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I believe the best entry in the trilogy, one of my favorite trilogies of all time. Andy Serkis' performance as Caesar was incredible, and Matt Reeves. Let's just say I'm excited for The Batman, and then Captain America, The Winter Soldier. You guys know me. I love me some MCU. I love me some Marvel movies. The Winter Soldier is one of, if not the best, arguably. It brought a very different stylistic look and feel to this franchise, and my goodness, this is when Captain America became my favorite live-action superhero of all time. And just a reminder, if I'm missing out on a movie here or there and you're like, dude, that's obviously one of the best of the decade, I'm not talking about my top 10 yet. We'll get into those. So 2015 was a great year for movies. Films like Room and The Martian and Sicario, of course, The Revenant, Ex Machina, Star Wars The Force Awakens, a Star Wars film that I really enjoy. The films that I'm choosing here, Creed, because the way the story was presented by Ryan Coogler, still my favorite one of his movies. It's so epic. It's awesome. I love the score. I love the cinematography. The one-take fight scene, still one of my favorite things ever, and Michael B. Jordan is awesome. And Spotlight. I mean, one of the few Best Picture winners that I feel deserved it for the most part. You know, I wasn't super upset when it won. There may have been one or two other movies that we're going to talk about here later, but Spotlight is such a well-made, well-directed movie. If you're talking pure screenwriting, this may be one of the best of the decade. It is one of my favorites of the decade, just not top 10. Oh my gosh, we're talking great years for movies. 2016, easily one of the best. Moonlight, Hacksaw Ridge, Your Name, Captain America, Civil War, but the one we're going to talk about here is Hell or High Water. Blown away. Blown away from this film. The direction from David Mackenzie. I love Jeff Bridges' performance, but I may actually prefer Ben Foster here. Ben Foster stole the entire show from me, but that's not without the chemistry between he and Chris Pine, who gives his best performance. This film revolutionized the way that I look at these actors. It brought David Mackenzie into the spotlight for me. Hell or High Water is one of the best movies I have seen in this decade, bar none, no doubt. More movies from 2016, but we'll get into those here in just a second. Wow, 2017, another really solid year, man. We had films like Thor Ragnarok, The Florida Project, but we're going to talk about Get Out real quick. Jordan Peele's entrance into the directing world in Hollywood. Wow, man. The fact that he made this movie this good, this shocking. Now, it took me a few watches to get to where I am right now. This would not have been in my top 30, and that for me is one of the interesting things about going back and revisiting these films. Who knows, my 2019 movies may change within a couple of years, but I've had some time to reflect on these films. Get Out makes this portion of this list. 2018, some movies that I fell in love with, from American Animals to 8th Grade, one of the coolest action movies I have seen this decade, Mission Impossible Fallout, and of course Avengers Infinity War, you can't forget that, but Hereditary and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse are the two movies we're talking about here. Hereditary is my favorite horror film of the decade. If you saw that list on my YouTube channel, you know that, man. This movie did everything it needed to do. I am much more of an artistic horror guy, A24. That's my go-to, so I had to put Hereditary on this list. Same thing with Get Out, right? I had to watch this movie multiple times to appreciate it. It was not even in my top 5. When my list came out on YouTube last year, if you watch that list, you're like, Austin, this has moved up a lot, hasn't it? Yeah, it has. Something else that moved up quite a bit is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This was not my favorite 2018 movie when 2018 ended. Now it's my favorite 2018 movie. I think what this did for comic book movies, not just in animated form, but comic book movies in general, the way that they explored humanity within these characters, the relationships, everything about just what went into making this film. If you watch all the behind-the-scenes videos, pretty brilliant, and it made these movies made 2018 a pretty solid year for films. Now, 2019 is a tough one because, like I said, reflection is a big part of choosing your favorite movies of the decade, and I haven't had a lot of time to go back and rewatch all of these films. That being said, 2019 for me is one of the best years of the decade, so I'm actually going to include a lot of movies on this list. There were some great films such as Knives Out, The Farewell, The Irishman, but man, to round out this top 30, we're going to include 5 movies in this portion from 2019. Parasite, a brilliant think piece from Bong Joon-ho, just went back and confirmed it belongs in my top 10 a couple of days ago. Joker, one of the coolest, most interesting comic book movies that doesn't feel like a comic book movie that I have ever seen. A lot of people give this movie a hard time, some flack, but I don't. I give it fleck. Arthur Fleck, that was stupid. Marriage Story. I love everything about this film, man. This is one of the most intricate and beautiful films. I've watched it 3 times. This is one of those that is rewatchable for me that I didn't think would be rewatchable. It moved up my list because of that. It is a beautiful film. Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson. Speaking of Scarlett Johansson, of course, you guys know me. Marvel shill. Saw that in my 2019 comments. Avengers Endgame. I love the MCU. I grew up with this franchise. A bit of nostalgia, absolutely, but I thought what they did with this film is absolutely fantastic. I had some comments saying I was a child for enjoying this movie, but whatever, man. Avengers Endgame I thought was awesome, as well as Uncut Gems. The Safdie brothers film that's got like a C+ cinema score. What you guys want, Jack and Jill? I loved Uncut Gems. I thought Adam Sandler's performance was riveting. The Safdie brothers, everything that they did with this movie was great. A standout of the decade for me. Let's see, we've covered 20 movies so far. That means we have come to the top 10 portion of the video. I'm going to give you guys my favorite movies of the decade. Coming in at number 10 is a 2017 movie in Blade Runner 2049. That's right. I'm one of those people that love this movie, man. I raved about it for so long. Yes, it is a tad bit slow, but what Denis Villeneuve does with these characters, with this film in general, with the lore, like, I enjoy the original Blade Runner, but I don't have this affection for it. This film gave me that affection. This is easily my favorite of the two. I went back and revisited the earlier one because of this and found a new appreciation for it. This film really did, in my opinion, change sci-fi without actually changing sci-fi. It should have changed sci-fi, the way that we look at movies, the way that we process a film like this, but it didn't make a huge impact at the box office, therefore not a lot of people saw it, and that really is a shame. I understand why a lot of people don't love Blade Runner 2049. It does feel a bit lengthy at times, and there are some weird elements to this film, but it's one of the best performances I've seen from Harrison Ford in the last 20 years. Ryan Gosling is incredible. The emotion at the end, the gut punch, the sound design, the score, everything about it worked. Roger Deakins, you can make a movie look pretty. And you know how I know that? Because you've done it twice. 1917 comes in at number 9 for me. Now, once again, a 2019 movie. I want to premise with the fact that this could move up or down. As I said, I've just not had a lot of time to reflect on my 2019 list, but I did include a lot of films because a lot of films hit me really hard this year. 1917 was one of the coolest cinematic experiences I have had all year, really all decade. From the sound design to the cinematography, which is Roger Deakins, some of the most gorgeous cinematography I've ever seen, the sweeping score, the epic moments, the character development that I think a lot of people are going to look past because they're going to see this as a technical achievement, which it is, but because of a lack of development. No, I'm actually on the other side of the fence. I think they develop these characters wonderfully without having the opportunity to flash back to earlier times in their lives and to people that are surrounding them and that impact them emotionally. They did what they could with the story that they were telling and the way that they told it. That, for me, is why 1917 impacted me so hard, and that's why it is right now number 9 on my favorites of the decade. Coming in at number 8 is a film that took me a bit to come around where I am right now on, and that is Mad Max Fury Road. This film is riveting. I have watched it probably 7 or 8 times. The first time I watched it, I walked out of the theater, I'm like, what was And I'm going to be honest with you guys, in 2015 when this movie dropped, I hadn't seen another Mad Max movie, so I went in completely blind. Still loved the film, but it wasn't even my number one until later after I'd watched it over and over, and I just appreciate George Miller's filmmaking. The stunt work, the choreography in this movie is awesome. Yes, it is a kind of a road trip story. We're going here, and then we're coming back. But it's the journey, for me, way more than it is the destination, and certain cliche elements of the script that I think are overcome by the epic action and the emotion that comes from that, right? Mad Max Fury Road, that's a movie that sticks with you, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. A film that stuck with me mostly because of how beautiful it was. Not gonna lie to you guys, I sat in the theater and bawled my eyes out watching this movie. The last 15 minutes got me, and this is La La Land. Sitting in a theater, I'll never forget this, surrounded by couples. I was by myself because I couldn't get anybody to go with me. I traveled 3 hours to see this film, and man, was it worth it. La La Land is a gorgeous movie. Sweeping cinematography. The color correction, probably my favorite on this list. Damien Chazelle. What else can I say about the guy other than he knows how to capture, to a degree, nostalgia? His use of lighting, the shot selection did harken back to movies that we love from the early 1900s even. It's really cool what he did here. And then you take into account that the story's really good, in my opinion. Some conventional things in there, but Gosling, once again, pops up on this list, and Emma Stone, both of them incredible. And I'm not a musical guy, but La La Land, it's in my top 10 movies of the decade. Yet it's not my favorite movie of 2016. If you would have asked me this 3 years ago, I would have said, there's no way. That's not even in my top 3. But I've since come around on Arrival, my favorite movie from Denis Villeneuve. And I wouldn't have said that. Even when Blade Runner came out, I'm like, Blade Runner's my favorite movie from Denis Villeneuve. Arrival, man, I've watched this movie so many times. It is smart sci-fi. We mix cinematography with score with just a movie that makes you think, and a film that messes and plays with your emotions in such a way, and when you get into that third act and you realize what was actually happening this entire time, and the fact that they're almost structuring the story in a way that we've never seen, Arrival stuck with me, impacted me, made me think about it, and 3 years later, it's all the way up here. Another film that I had to come around on was not even in my top 3 of that year until watching it over and over, and it really is what made me the world's biggest David Fincher fan. That is The Social Network. We talk screenwriting, we talk a script that is just monumentally good. Once again, don't know how accurate everything is here, but it doesn't bother me because I think this movie is constructed in such a way that just keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it's all about a guy who invented a website that became very popular. Well, if you put it that way. But I think this film is much more than that, right? Fincher's direction, the script is just so crisp, the dialogue just back and forth in a way that blew me away and blows me away over and over and over. And I don't know why I find this movie so rewatchable. I have no clue. I'm just glued to the screen every single time that I see it, and The Social Network is awesome, as is my favorite superhero movie of the decade. Not by a long shot, right? I love me some Avengers Endgame. I love me some Joker. I love me some Infinity War. All of those movies worked really well for me. Spider-Verse, of course. But Logan is the comic book movie on this list. I think what Logan did for the genre was fantastic, using the R rating to its advantage to bring out the action, what we love about Wolverine, but then it's the story, it's the emotion, it's the fact that this guy is coming to the end of his life. Maybe he doesn't even know it yet. He just wants to die, daggone it, but he has to continue to protect those that maybe he does not want to protect, and as a huge fan of Hugh Jackman as this character, to see where this movie progressed and went, I thought was amazing. X-23, she was awesome. Patrick Stewart, his performance was one of my favorite of that year. I think he got snubbed at the Oscars. Nobody else would agree with me, but I loved him. He is the one movie on this list that maybe not everyone has seen, but Sing Street is a film that I have watched at least 10 times. It hit me harder than any other movie that year. That's right, over Arrival, over La La Land. 2016 was a pretty good year, but Sing Street really did everything I didn't know I wanted it to do. John Carney directed this in one of the most energetic, fun, incredibly authentic ways, and honestly, I fell in love with everyone in this movie. Lucy Boynton, Ferdia Walsh-Pilo, the cast is exquisite. The film displays chemistry unlike any film that I've seen maybe this decade, and I love, and I say it all the time, I love a good brotherly relationship in a movie, and this is the best brotherly relationship. Jack Reynor, one of the most gut-wrenching, heartbreaking performances of the decade, a guy who just wanted to do it, wanted to be the guy that now his brother gets the opportunity to be, and the last 10 minutes of this film with Adam Levine's song in the background playing as they're on the boat, I'm just like, okay. I think I cry every time I watch the movie, and I've watched it like 10 times. Sing Street. Seek it out. Find it. Watch this movie. It's not a musical, but it's full of music, full of life, and drive it like you stole it. But somehow, it's not my favorite music-based movie of the decade. That is Whiplash. Hello, Damien Chazelle. You pop back up on this list. How you doing, man? Listen, Whiplash is everything I wanted Whiplash to be. Whiplash showcases a man who would do anything it takes to be great. He just wants to be great at what he loves, and that's playing the drums. This film is riveting. It is exquisite. It is shot so well. The story is gripping. It starts off just a tad bit rough. It's like, okay, where's this going? He's got a girlfriend. He's trying to figure things out. And then J.K. Simmons comes into the picture, and your world, my world, everyone's world changes after that. I have never seen a film that impacted me in a way that, you know, and I like music, but I didn't know I liked music this much. And the last 15 minutes of this film, just some of the best filmmaking ever. Yep. We got Denis Villeneuve, David Fincher, Damien Chazelle, a lot of D's on this list. Where's Christopher There he is. It's Inception. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Inception is one of my favorite movies of all time, as are a few of these films. But Inception is yet another movie that took multiple rewatches to get to where I am now, and every time I watch it, I get something different. I have watched Inception so many times, less frequently over the last year and a half, just because I watched 230 2019 movies, so not a lot of time to rewatch things, but every time I watch Inception, I get something new. I get another plot point or character point. I've heard more critiques as of late. It's like, oh, this scene is exposition. There are characters that shout out things that are relevant and important to the plot, but with the movie this deep and literally and figuratively layered as Inception, I think you need things like that every now and then. The rotating hallway sequence is still one of my favorite sequences in a movie. I think Christopher Nolan handles this film in such a way that we've never really seen before for a blockbuster. That's right. This was a blockbuster, man. This made a lot of money at the box office. It's an action-centric film, even though we think of it as more of something that boggles the mind. I've never seen a movie like Inception. It is incredible. And the cast, if we look at it now, Tom Hardy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, it is one of the best casts of the decade. Inception has everything going for it. Stuck with me. Hasn't let go. The first year of the decade circles back around to the last year and brings us my favorite film of the last 10 years. And that's Inception. Oh man, that was a long video. So as always, I don't expect all of you to agree with me, but I appreciate the conversation. What are your favorite movies? Are there films on here that I left off, didn't talk about? I tried to cover as many things as I possibly could. The movies that stuck with me, of course, but there are still those tiny films that surprised me, shocked me, and if you guys want another list, let me know by commenting your thoughts and smashing that thumbs up button, and I'll maybe do more decade lists, right? But we have an announcement to make, a contest winner or 3. I told you guys to comment your favorite movie of 2019 for a prize. I got so many incredible comments. I read through as many as I could. I gave my wife about 35, 40. I let her choose 3. It was slightly random, but she also read them, so our winners are Vibes, V-I-B-S. Their favorite movie is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Andrew, hashtag YNWA, who has already got back to me after winning. Their favorite movie for a multitude of incredible reasons is Joker. And Mega Movies, Marriage Story, being Mega Movies' favorite film of the year. All 3 of you are winners. Get back with me. Find me on Twitter at the Burkinator. Message me, and I will definitely be giving you guys your prize, which is, for each of you, a mystery pop figure that I've already chosen and will reveal on my most anticipated movies of 2020 video. Stay tuned. Check that video out just to see what these guys have won. But find me. Let me know. Thank you guys for participating in that. And like I said, leave your comments below on this video. You are truly the best. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon with another countdown.